So part of farm life or homestead life, quite frankly, is physical labor. It can be hard work. And some of the tasks you only do a couple of times a year. Some of them you only do in certain seasons. There's some things you kind of do all the time. But I found in order for me to be able to do the things, especially the things that only need to be done every now and then, so that I can do them without injuring myself or being so sore that I can't hardly move for a few days afterwards, that it's really important that I use physical fitness. And a lot of it's gonna actually be with weightlifting or some type of weight bearing or even like your body weight exercises, so that I can do them with fairly ease no matter when it's called upon. Maybe not necessarily ease, but that it's not so debilitating or I'm not struggling so hard. So I wanted to share with you guys today some of my favorite exercises that work the muscles that you need for certain farm chores. So one of these, of course, right here, we have got the wood. And as you can see, as I'm packing that, at least this arm anyways, is really working. The main part is going to be the bicep. So I'm gonna go and set this down, and then I'm gonna show you my favorite exercises indoors that work those muscles. So when we're lifting a lot of things, but especially when you're carrying things like wood, you wanna have your biceps. So we're gonna take our dumbbells. Dumbbells work really well for biceps. There's lots of different bicep curl variations. You can use barbells, you can use dumbbells. So one of the key things when you are doing a bicep curl is you wanna have, for just a regular bicep curl, you wanna have full range of motion. And you wanna keep your elbows to the side of your body, and you wanna keep your elbows just kind of in line like with your rib cage, because if you have your elbows too far forward, you're gonna work a different muscle, and if you have them too far back, you're gonna start to work your shoulders. So you wanna keep them in and close to the body, and then we're going to inhale in, lift, and exhale on the way down. And it's better if you go slow and controlled to really activate and strengthen the muscle. So that's a regular bicep curl. Another one that's really great for carrying wood, because if you're packing anything a decent amount of distance, because you're keeping the arm bent usually when you're carrying things. And so this is a different variation that works well. So you're gonna bring it up to just 90 degrees, and you're gonna go out, and you're gonna come in. And that keeps the bicep under constant tension, which is what happens when I'm carrying a load until I set it down. So that can be a really good variation to use. Now this might not necessarily be an issue for the guys, but if you're a lady like me, I didn't always have the strength to pull start a motor. Now I usually can pull start, this is our BCS hand tractor, it's our rototiller and other things like that. So I'm usually able to pull this one and get it started. But when it's in the winter time, that one needs a couple of starts, and I don't actually need to till anything right now, but I wanted to show you the action. We had our generator, because we lose power quite a bit out here. And the downside is in the wintertime, which is when we do lose a lot of our power, the switch to turn the generator on went out, which means the only way that we could start the generator was by the pull start. And actually is a harder pull start than even the BCS tractor. This one's pretty easy. And so I either had to wait for my husband to come home from work, which meant I was without power, or I had to call my dad, who lives up the road, to come and pull start it for me, because I could not get it pull started because I lacked the upper body strength, which, being a farmer and a logger's daughter, really started to irritate me. I'm like, okay, I gotta figure out a way to be able to do this on my own. And the only way that I was able to do that on my own was to build up the muscles so that I had a little more oomph behind me when I was trying to do the pull start. So, not that the guys don't need to work on this, but especially my ladies, when you're trying to do those pull starts, this is an excellent exercise, which I want you to know. I can now pull start even our old generator, and I don't have to call my dad anymore. And it's because of this exercise right here. So it is a one arm row. And I know sometimes we think row, we're thinking arm. It does work some muscles in the arm, but we're actually looking to really activate these muscles in the back right through here, because those are really the muscles that you're gonna get the power from that you need and the strength to do a pull start. So you don't have to have a bench. I don't have a weight bench. So you're gonna come down into basically like a high lunge. So we're not going down low. This is not a 90-degree angle. And I'm just gonna support myself. You can right here with my elbow, right on top, right above my knee. And then you wanna make sure that this is a heavy enough weight, because when you're using your back muscles through here, you actually can lift quite a bit. It's not what you're lifting with your arms. So you wanna make sure that it's a heavy enough weight. And then you're gonna have your arm all the way down, and then you're drawing that shoulder blade back and up, and you want to make sure that when you're lifting up, you're keeping it close to the body and that the elbow is going above the spine. And then you come all the way back down, fully down, and then up. And then you just simply switch sides. Another thing any homesteader or farmer is going to be doing is moving bags of feed. And most bags of feed are anywhere from 35, this one's 40, the pig feed is 50-pound bags. And you definitely do not want to be throwing your back out or doing different things like that, but you need to be able to lift these. So it's kind of one of those multi-action things. You have to be able to physically get it up off of the ground safely. And then you need the strength to be able to pack it wherever you need to pack it. Now, luckily for me, because I don't want to walk this all the way out, I could, if I have to, pack this all the way out to the pump house, which is where we keep our chicken feed, because that's where the chicken coops are. But I gotta confess, most of the times I just use the four-wheeler, but I still have to be able to take said bag of feed, lift it up off the ground, lift it out of the truck, and all of those different things, and move it around until it's actually time to take that bag out to the chicken coop and then feed the chicken. So this bag gets handled multiple times, which means I have to be strong enough to move it multiple times before it hits its final resting place to feed the chickens. So when you're lifting those feed bags, especially if you're lifting actually anything heavy that's down on the ground, a lot of times you hear lift with your legs because you don't want to lift with your back and injure it. Very smart advice. One of the exercises, a squat. So it kind of depends on where that item is at, like how low on the ground. But I like to do both squats as well as deadlifts, especially if it's something I need to pick up. So with a deadlift, heavier is actually better. And a bar is really nice if you have heavy, but you can also do this with dumbbells. So with the deadlift, a lot of times people think that you're kind of doing a squat with a deadlift and it looks like you're using your back, but you're really not. So you wanna come forward, and there is a bend in the knee, but I'm not doing the squat motion. I'm actually hinging forward and I'm pushing my hips back, but not like a squat where I'm going down. So you wanna make sure that you're doing that and the spine is completely, it's straight. So I'm hinged at the hips and I'm shooting back. And then you're gonna just start to pick up, and then you come fully up. So I'm actually working the back of my legs. I'm using, so go and then you go down. So I'm actually using these muscles right through here. I'm not really using, you do a little bit of your back, but not a lot. But this is where you should really be feeling it. So you first wanna just kind of set a little bit up on the weight and draw those shoulder blades back, spine is straight, and then you're gonna come up. And as you go down each time, hips shoot back, hinging forward, and then you come up. You're shooting back, spine is straight, weight in the heels, and up. And so you really will feel this in the hamstrings, and it is a really good workout. But that way, when you've got stuff that's here, like that bag of feed, I can just come straight up and I've got it. So moving straw, moving hay, even if you don't have livestock. If you have livestock, we don't feed a lot of square bales. As you saw, we do the haylage, the big round bales. We do keep a couple of smaller hay bales of alfalfa for the American guinea hogs, but predominantly we're not actually doing a lot of square bales like we used to. But I do use straw in the vegetable garden, and as well as bedding for the animals. So I am having to move some of this around. So when you are obviously picking this up,
you're gonna be using kind of all of your body strength, but then you're gonna be using your arm strength, and then, I don't know, for me, I usually have to use a knee if I'm gonna be putting it up high. Move out of the way. And then if you're putting it into anything that you gotta climb up on, or you're stacking it if you've got more than one. My husband's truck isn't super high, but I don't have super long legs, so I still have to have some flexibility to be in order to get up here and to finish moving this.
So this exercise, when you're doing an upright row, is handy. It comes in handy in quite a few times. It could come in handy when you're lifting up hay bales, and it also comes in handy when you're lifting up, as you can guess, when you're lifting something up, but also some of those bigger feed bags, especially once you get them up, or some of those heavy items, like if you're moving them off of a table or needing to draw them up before you maybe push something overhead. Upright row is a really good exercise to get those muscles strengthened. So you can do it with a bar, or you can do it with dumbbells. So we're gonna pick our dumbbells up. And it's really important with the upright row that you are leading with your elbows. So and you're keeping the weights, be it dumbbells or a bar, pretty close to the body. You don't want them out front and away from you. So you're gonna lead with the elbows. You're pulling up, so my elbows are the first thing that comes up, and then you're gonna go back down. And it's kind of just like skimming the front of your body.
Now, some other stuff, especially if you have, well, definitely if you have fruit trees, but even other trees and even house projects, right, is gonna be getting up and down on ladders, and then also pruning. And the larger your trees, which these aren't even super big trees, these are semi-dwarf, you're gonna have some climbing involved, which means, now this one is just a smaller step ladder, which is perfect. I just need to remove my old apple maggot traps, need to be taken off of the tree. But when I'm going up and down a lot, I have to confess, I usually just skip this step and just go straight to this top one and go. I'm a lot more about speed and getting things done. And then with these pruners, even with these longer handled lopper ones like I have here, I still have got some different branches that I'm gonna be doing a lot of reaching, and of course then reaching and removing my old apple maggot traps until next year. And when you have an entire orchard, this can actually get pretty physically taxing to do all of the trees.
Okay, so this exercise, you can do a combination to kill two birds with one stone. With the military press action, you're working your shoulders. So this is really great for anything that you're doing overhead, which picking fruit, removing apple maggot traps, or pruning, if it's a tall tree, that's all gonna be done overhead. But also, if you are tossing hay bales up high, or having to stack them, or straw, or anything like that, you wanna have your shoulders to be strengthened. So we're just gonna do a simple military press. Again, dumbbells are great for this. So we're going to bring them up, and we're gonna draw our navel into our spine. So we're using our core and our whole body here. And you're gonna keep them just slightly forward of your shoulders, just a little bit. And you're going to inhale, press up, exhale. Now, if you wanna make that combination move, this is really great for hay bales when you are needing to use just a little bit of that leg power to get that bad boy up. So we're gonna do a balancing one-legged military press. So you're going to bring this up, and you're gonna keep the foot flexed so that you're keeping the muscles engaged and basically at a right angle, or 90 degrees with my leg. And then we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna inhale, up, and down. And it's considerably harder when you're trying to do the balancing with your leg. You might need to lighten your weights. I'm gonna have to lighten my weights just a little bit when I'm doing this as the one-legged motion. There you go.
Now, even if you have a wood splitter, you're probably not doing quite as much wood chopping, but we still do use an axe. I will confess, my husband usually ends up doing more of the axe stuff. I am one of the klutziest people you will ever meet. And if I have to, I can chop wood, but he feels a little bit better doing the wood chopping because he's an EMT and he really doesn't want to deal with me accidentally like slicing into my foot. However, that wood chop motion still comes in handy when you are stacking and lifting your firewood. So it's kind of the same muscles are being used, especially if you're stacking up above your head, that you use if you're swinging. You're just kind of going in the opposite direction, an axe.
Now, this exercise works well if you are chopping wood, which I confess to you guys, I don't chop wood very often because I'm a super klutz. I'm actually really proud of myself. I have not dropped any of these weights on my toes yet. Hopefully I didn't just jinx myself. But this can also work if you are stacking wood. And this is kind of a great full body exercise. And actually, like if you're doing a lot of hoeing, this is a really good exercise for a lot of things that you're gonna do on the farm. So you wanna take a weight, and we're gonna take one weight in both hands. If you have a kettlebell, you could use a kettlebell to do this as well. So I'm just gonna hold it like this, and we're gonna rotate up high. So you're gonna rotate your whole body up overhead, and then you're gonna come down and go back up. And we're coming down into a side lunge, and it's that rotating motion, and then we're coming back up. So the weight is good because we're throwing up, and then we're swinging it down, just like you would if it was an axe. And you wanna make sure, of course, that you always do both sides. So it's important, like when we're coming over here, you can see that this foot is turned in, heel is up, and then we're rotating on the ball of that foot and coming over. And so you're gonna engage the abs, the legs, full body. So these really large, they look like giant marshmallows. I know, it's always what I called them when I was a kid, but these are actually our haylage bales. We bring in between about 30 to 40 bales at the end of the summer, beginning of fall. So this is typically once a year, and sometimes we just do multiple trips and we get it all done on one day. Sometimes we'll spread it out, it'll be over 2 days over a weekend. But we do have a tractor now, but I don't have the grapple hooks that allows us to unload these without puncturing the plastic, because as you can see, these just stay out all year. We don't have a barn or anything, so it's really imperative that we do not puncture the plastic, because then it begins to dry out and or mold, and then of course it's not suitable for our animal feed. So my husband and I physically, both of us together, neither one of us can do it by ourselves, have to roll these off of the back of the truck, which means actually hopping on top of the bales. So we're having to push ourselves, jump actually, and get up on top of the bales, then get down between the bales, and in the beginning, use our legs together to push the bales so that there's enough space between us and the bales, and to get some momentum going so that we can then push them off the back of the flatbed, that rolling motion. They're really heavy, they're half a ton, but usually after you get them moving, you can move them with 2 people. But the thing of it is at the end of it, we are pretty much wiped out. It's kind of like, basically it's like doing a CrossFit marathon in one day, once a year. So if you're not already in a decent amount of shape, we are looking, I have to confess, at getting one of the grapple hooks for the tractor to avoid this, but we've been doing this for about, oh goodness, I think for about 4 years. So if we don't already have that muscle strength and some type of endurance, it's going to be a really, really hard, long day. So when it comes to moving the round bales, using our leg power is really key. And so squats are one of the best exercises just to work all parts of the leg. Now, when you're first beginning doing squats, of course, you can just use your own body weight. So you always want to make sure that you are pushing down in your heels. So I will actually lift my toes up a little bit on the front just to make sure that I've got all of the weight centered back. And then when I do squats, to get full activation in the glutes, and this can actually help you not try to put the exercise into your back, is I go really deep. So I go all the way down and then come all the way up. Now, if you're just first doing this type of an exercise, then just use your own body weight and just do squats. You wanna make sure that you're keeping the knees behind the toes. You don't want them to shoot out over. And then when you're down here, focus on the muscles and then push yourself up. Now, after you have been doing that for a while, and honestly, if you're pushing half-ton hay bales, you're gonna be needing to add some weight. Now, I don't actually have a weight bench or a gym or anything like that at home. We don't even have a garage or a basement. So just using some dumbbells, or this is like a weighted bar. So this is a 25-pound weighted bar. These come, I think you can get these different bars like 5, 10, I think they go up to 30 pounds with this style, and then you'll move into like Olympic bars. We actually will be adding plates. So you can use dumbbells or bars. Using the bar like this is nice. And so when you're bringing it up, you wanna set it back behind, and you wanna make sure you're not setting this on your neck. You wanna have it right down lower on the traps in the top here of the back, really. So I've got my dumbbells here. What do I have these set at? 5, 10, 15, 17 and a half. So this is gonna be almost 35 pounds. And actually, which is not a whole lot more than this, but it is a little bit. But if all you've got is dumbbells. So I like to put them on my shoulder, especially I usually stack more weight on these when I'm doing my weighted squats now, but I like to set them on my shoulders rather than try to hold them like here, because then that puts a lot more strain on my other muscles. And I'm just trying to focus at this point on the squat. So kind of the same thing, this is a little bit heavier. And so breathe in, set your feet, and go down. You want to make sure my chest and my gaze is forward. And I like to do with the weights when you're trying to figure out how heavy to go, where I can do about 7 and I can feel it. By the time I hit 9 or 10, it should be really hard. Like I can barely get that 10th rep out. And then I know that I'm actually growing the muscle and I'm getting it stronger. But really we use our legs for so much that a squat is a great exercise to work. Plus, you get the added benefit. Can you tell I'm a little out of breath? You also get a little bit of cardio benefit with your weightlifting. So if you're doing a lot of ladder climbing and actually using your legs again to lift things too, another good exercise is to do a lunge. So you can just use your regular body weight again. So when you're doing your lunge, you want to make sure that the knee is stacked directly over the ankle. And then you can either go forward or backwards. Either way is fine. So if you're going into a back lunge, so you can see this is a 90-degree angle, and it's a 90-degree angle back here. Now, if you're just starting out with lunges, the lower you go, the harder it is. And so if you're just starting out, you might not be able to go quite so deep, and that's fine. When you're starting out, you can go a little bit higher. But if you really want to build those muscles, you're gonna wanna go down nice and low. You're basically that back knee, it's almost kissing the ground. Another common mistake with lunges is you wanna make sure that your feet are actually wide enough apart, and that's gonna help with your balance. So if I try to keep my feet almost like this, I'm a little bit wobbly. But if I take my foot further back, see there's more of a kind of like, I've heard it explained like if you're on railroad tracks, one foot's on this and one foot's on this one, then that gives you a more stable base so that you can go down deep. So you can just do standing like this, you bring the foot together, you can go backwards, you can also go frontwards. You're still doing the same thing. Or to make it harder, we can go weighted. Again, you can use a bar or you can use the dumbbells. So the dumbbells are a little bit harder, but I actually worked legs yesterday. So I'm gonna try the dumbbells, but I'm a little bit sore, to be honest. So one of the best exercises, or I should say, not exercises because we're still talking lunges, but when you're doing the weighted lunges is if you do walking lunges, they're harder than doing the stationary ones like I just showed you. So you can, especially if you're just using weights, for doing weighted lunges and you're not used to doing them weighted, then you can use your weights and you can do them stationary. So kind of the same thing, when you go forward, you're using weights, you wanna have the shoulder blades pulled back and your chest up. And you go down and up. Now you can stay like this and just do reps, or you can do the same thing, where you're gonna step out like this. Or what I feel is like the granddaddy hardest is to do a full walking lunge. So that is where you're gonna stand, and you can just do a few at a time if you don't have a ton of walking space, but you're gonna go into the lunge and then you're gonna come up and go all the way out. And then you can turn around. But that is a lot harder and a lot bigger range of motion than if you come together in the middle each time.
Now, when you're working out in the garden, you actually are doing all kinds of different movements kind of all throughout the whole gardening season and the day, but especially like during planting and weeding and even harvesting time. So it's really important that you have a really good flexibility, and stretching is actually going to be helpful not only in doing a lot of the chores, but then also doing it after it, because even if you are in shape, oftentimes when you go and spend a whole like marathon day in the garden or your marathon planting day of the main crops, you're a little bit sore. And so having some great exercises to stretch everything out just really helps you feel better. So if you think about it, there's a lot of different ways. So some of us, you'll come down. I tend to weed a lot in this position, or, we'll even be amending and looking through the plants. But then when you're doing the weeding action, you're doing just a lot of different reaching, and then you've got those pulling. Some people, I'll even kind of do like a side stretch and just kind of go ahead and stretch out like this as I'm actually weeding. But you are doing a lot of moving, you're doing a lot of twisting, just a lot of things like that in the garden. So it's really great if you've got at least a couple of key stretches and kind of full body stretches and full body exercises, just to help keep everything nice and mobile without any pain.
So some of my favorite stretches to do are things that release the lower back and also increase flexibility in the legs. So one of my favorite ones is a forward fold. So to do a forward fold, you're going to want to breathe a deep breath in and then blow it out as you come over. Now, if you're not super flexible, you might not even be able to get this far down. You might be up here, and that's fine. And if you are more flexible, then you're probably going to be able to just put your palms on the ground. And then you're going to slowly, one vertebrae at a time, roll up, neck and head stays tucked until you come to the top. And I like to do that several times, because each time you go over into a forward fold, you're going to increase the depth in your flexibility and your stretch. So we're going to inhale in, forward fold, and then you do a half lift. And when you do that half lift, my spine is straight, I am hinged over, and you're looking upwards. Now what this will look like if you're not quite as flexible, come up again, inhale in, blow out as you come down, and then your half lift, you'll come to your shins or right below your knees. But again, straight spine, looking forward. So this is a really great prep. One, it stretches out and feels really nice, all of these muscles back here. And when you're doing the half lift portion, it also helps with the back, but this sets you up to easily go into a plank for some of the other stretches. So I'm going to show you that in motion here. Forward fold, half lift, and then we're going to go right into downward dog. So downward dog is great at stretching out both sides of the body. So one of the things you can do when you first come into downward dog is you can, what we call walking the dog or pedaling the heels. And so you're just going to alternate pushing your heel down to the ground, and that's going to really help you stretch out your calves and the back of the leg. Now with the front of your body, you want to make sure that your head is between your arms and it's straight. So I have a straight back, and you also want to pull your navel or your belly button into your spine, and you have your hips lifted to the sky. So this is a very much what we call a working stretch, but it's really good. And then after you've kind of pedaled the legs a little bit, then you can push both heels down towards the ground to get an even greater stretch. Now from here, you kind of got a couple of options. One of the things you can do is go straight down to the ground for child's pose. So you're going to bring knees to the ground, heels together, and you're going to push back. And you can open up the knees, just a little bit. And then you're going to put the forehead to the ground, and you're going to feel a stretch through here and really throughout that lower back. But when you're in this pose, you want to walk with your fingertips, walk your hands forward so that you're also getting a really good stretch in the upper back and right through here. Now, one of my next favorite stretches is you can come up on all fours to transition there. Bring your feet in, and you're gonna roll up. So we're gonna start this as a forward fold. We're gonna go down, half lift, and then you're gonna walk your feet out, and then you're gonna bring your hands up. Now, you might be like, I don't know if I can do that, so you can just kind of stay on your fingertips. But this is one of my absolute favorite. You cross your arms like this, and just let yourself hang. And oh, it is delicious on the back of the legs, but especially right through your shoulder blades. So when we were doing like those upright rows and the one arm row, oh, this just releases all of those muscles throughout the whole spine and even the neck. And you can kind of go slightly sway just a little bit back and forth with the upper body. And then you bring the hands back down. You can even bend and then straighten if you want to get a little bit more of a stretch in the back. And then we're just going to bring our feet in and roll up. Okay, just a couple more stretches. The stretches is my favorite part. So a few more that you can do, and this is especially helpful when you are weeding or doing things down low to the ground, is I like to come down, and go right angle over here, and then come down. You can keep your hands up here, so if you're not really flexible yet, you're just gonna stay more upright. But we're really feeling this stretch through the inner part of the thigh here. Or if you are needing more flexibility or more of a stretch, then use your hands to support yourself, and you're gonna come down, and I like to flex the foot, and then that really stretches out through here. So this can be really great to get this stretched, because then as I'm kind of like moving, do both sides, as I'm moving through a row with the garden, like I can kind of do some weeding like this, and then, you know, kind of walk my way back and forth. So that's a nice one, stretches out through there. Then one of my other stretches, and this is actually really good for the lower back. And so this is basically doing like, kind of like a frog stretch. And so you're gonna come down like this. So it's kind of like at the bottom of the squat, except we have our toes turned out. Then you're gonna take your elbows and place them on the inside of the knees. You're gonna push back a little bit. And this actually helps to release the lower back, and it opens up and stretches throughout your thighs. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and that you found some of these helpful. If you would like to see more farm fitness stuff, let me know in the comments below, or if you have more questions on what my weekly and daily fitness and workout routines actually look like, because I would love to know how I can help you guys the most.